Yeah, gotta get all this stuff. All right. Peace and love to you, my friend. Family. What's up? What's up? You changed your name? Oh yeah, I knew you were family. You had told me. But greetings. Y'all know what time it is. Let's get this show.
Conversations with TNathan delves into the stories of activists, scholars, and everyday heroes who have fought to continue the fight for justice, equality, and liberation. Not only will he educate and inform, but also empowers listeners to become active participants in the ongoing fight for justice. Every night at 11 Eastern on the GCPR network.
Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know what time it is. It's that time. Just heard the intro. It's Conversations with T. Nathan. That must mean that I am T. Nathan. This is the conversation, and it's exactly 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, and it's top of the hour wherever you all are. We are never late. We are always on time. You can set your watches by it. Yeah, and if one person says anything differently, you might be on the prospect of being blocked. Welcome, welcome. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing out there? We give everybody a couple of minutes to catch up because everybody can't be on time like I am. Everybody can't be on time, and then TikTok suppression. But I'm here every night, Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Time. So you can't depend on TikTok to give you that. You have to do the work. You have to do the work. You have to tune in. Invites going out for the block party. Yeah, it's no disputing. I am always on time. Right. Especially since my lawyers told me that I am always on time and I can never be late to my own show. That's it. So this is what's going on. So if you've been with me for the last 6 days, um, we started on Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. Well, no, we started on Wednesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. No, I think we started on Tuesday. I think it's today. It's been over a week almost. We talked about Katrina. We talked about Katrina since we're approaching the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina making landfall um, on the Louisiana coast. And on August the 29th, 2005, we spent time going over documentary, correcting some of the narrative based on somebody who was on the ground. And yeah, cleared up a lot of things after 20 years. So we wrapped that up. What's up, Siren? What's up? In 8 minutes, you should be getting your first TikTok violation of the show. Right. It's like you all get to, and it's so strange because if you're on the other place, you get to see them on the screen because the other place that I, stream, it's on the screen, so you get to see them. Nothing but chilling. Just said Louisiana coast. Yeah, the coast of Louisiana. Yeah, we Hurricane Katrina. So hi everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. Y'all missed the intro, cause y'all late. Y'all late. I am always on time. Y'all late. You missed the intro. You gotta wait till tomorrow to get the intro. So I want to talk about several things tonight. Um, and it's interesting because they're like worlds apart but connected. But first, we're gonna start with Donald Trump. Um, announced that he was recently. Well, we're gonna do it this way. We're going to, I come with receipts and I come ready. So we're going to go over some of the receipts I got. But if y'all remember Big Balls, the little 19-year-old that worked with Elon Musk and Doge and, had access to all our records, he still works for the Trump administration in another capacity. He literally now works for the Social Security Administration. And in a, listen, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just going to say this, right? The idea that this little boy tried to stop a gang of an organized a gang, a mob, 10 individuals involved in a carjacking. that I've never seen ever. I've never seen 10 individuals involved in a carjacking, but I digress. The idea that he was going to stop a carjacking by himself is stretching the tenets of reality for me. All right, Jay, what are you getting off or you working a double? Um, Slide in through the front door, not trunk. What's up, Jason? You know what? If you change your name, if you just said something like that, I know who it was. Every time someone says, "Listen, I respect to hear Linda," really have to listen, Linda. But listen, Linda. The idea that this 19-year-old, is he 20, 19, 20 by now, that he was going to stop a carjacking is far fetched. Let's just be realistic. It's far fetched. But let's take a look at your president and what he had to say about said attack and what he was going to do.
Top at 10, President Trump doubles down on his threat of a federal takeover in D.C., even warning he might bring in the National Guard.
And it comes after a former Doge employee was brutally beaten during an attempted carjacking in Northwest. Sharon Raje has been following the developments, and she's live outside of the White House with the latest.
Yeah, Jim, Angie, this is not the first time that the president has made such threats. He has clearly voiced his frustration about the crime in D.C., about the homelessness issue, about general cleanliness around the city. Today, he reiterated that he wants to beautify the district, but he also said that local crime is out of control here in D.C., and if local officials can't control it, he will.
This has to be the best run place in the country, not the worst run place in the country. And it has so much potential, and we're going to take care of it.
During a big $100 billion investment announcement alongside Apple CEO Tim Cook, the president also addressing questions swirling around crime in D.C.
The crime is ridiculous. I could show you a chart comparing D.C. to other locations, and you're not going to want to see what it looks like. We
We're
just
gonna fact
almost
check.
lost a young man, beautiful, handsome guy that got the hell knocked out of him.
The president's anger stemming from a vicious attack on Sunday. 19-year-old Edward Korstein, a high-profile former Doge employee who worked closely with Elon Musk, was beaten by a mob of teenagers during an attempted carjacking. Two 15-year-olds have since been arrested. The president adding that teens as young as 14 should be prosecuted as adults.
What a shame. The rate of crime, the rate of muggings, killings, and everything else, we're not going to let it. And that includes bringing in the National Guard, maybe very quickly.
Elon Musk responding on X, saying, quote, "It is time to federalize D.C." The new U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro also behind it.
It's up to the president. I support him totally. If you think that these kids need to be coddled and they need to be hugged, they need to have consequences. They need to understand that enough is enough, that we're going to put them in jail.
Remember
Does
all
the
this.
president have the
Remember all
legal
this.
authority to federalize D.C.?
He does have the authority under the 1973 D.C. Home Rule Act to take control of the D.C. police for 48 hours without really asking anybody. He can just tell the mayor he's going to do it.
The president can extend that for another 30 days, but typically even a temporary takeover would occur only under special conditions of an emergency.
You know, I think a lot of people might say, geez, that doesn't seem like it's an emergency. It might be really bad policy. It might be bad policing. It might be an embarrassment to the district. But is that what this power is there for?
Now, full control of D.C. would mean repealing D.C.'s Home Rule Act of 1973. There's actually a bill going through Congress right now, hoping to take control federally of D.C. We reached out to Mayor Bowser's office and to Attorney General Brian Schwab's office. They were not available for comment, but their offices did point to the fact that violent crime in D.C. is actually down 26% compared to last year, and they say has been going on a downward trend. Guys?
Now, listen. Now, listen. Listen. Y'all heard everything he said, right? Y'all heard everything he said. Now, I want to point out something to you all. I want to make this point. I want to point out something. Let's look at. Dun, dun, dun. What do y'all think DC is on this list of 20, 20 most violent cities in the United States? What do y'all think DC falls? I got time. You live in DC? Good, kidney nurse. I want you to stay. I want you to stay because there will be a pop quiz after this. Number one, all right, there will be a pop quiz after this. I want you to look at this, and we're going to talk about those stats that he says about DC being the most violent city, and Gene Shapiro talking about teenagers should be coddled like they're not coddled. If you live in DC or you live in Virginia, you know what I'm about to say. So let's go through the list. Let's see. We'll start at, I know Tulsa. Listen, I'm not surprised Tulsa is number 20. I'm not surprised. History of violence, Tulsa Massacre, 1921. And look at these sources. So the homicide rate is 17.29, and this is going to be a little while. Some of the words you all have to know because got to be TikTok friendly. The homicide rate is 17.29 per 100,000 people. The grapes are 104. 104.48 per 100,000 people. Robberies are 238 point per 100,000 people. I'm gonna just go say all these are in case of 100,000 people, so you all know per capita. Okay, so I want to have to say it. Assaults, you have 680 per capita. All these are in, right. So Toledo, Ohio. Uh, Toledo, Ohio. Toledo, Ohio, number 19 on the list. And the population is, oh, I should have told you the population of Tulsa so you can understand this. Tulsa's population is 404,000. Toledo, Ohio's population is 270,871. Homicides are 12.63. Grapes are 87. Robberies are 281. Assaults are 661.82. Right? So are we getting close to DC yet? We getting close. Let's go. Keep. I'm gonna stop when we get to DC. All right, so I'll stop when we get to DC. Houston is number 18. Population 2,304,580. Homicides 11.5, grapes 58.4, robberies 417.96, and assaults 607.34. Houston is the 18th most violent city in America. Let's move on. Chicago, Illinois. Chicago, 2,746,388 people. And homicides are 18.26 per 100,000. Grapes are 65.11. Robberies are 439.26. Assaults are 570.36. All these are in per 100,000. Now, y'all always hear we talk about Chicago. Remember that now. Homicide rates in Chicago are only 18.26 per 100,000 people. It's number 17 on the list. What? What? Not the Lily White Basin of Minneapolis, Minnesota at number 16. But they have they have a population of 418,917. Um, Homicides 10.02. Grapes 122.68. Robberies 434.16, and assaults 534.40. Why is everybody talking about my second home of Chicago? Listen, get keep stay with me. Well, we're gonna stop. I'm gonna stop when I get to Washington D.C. These are the 20 most violent cities, and New Orleans comes in at number 15. 397,447. Of course, that population is about 100,000 off of what it was during Katrina. 39 homicides, 144 grapes, 329 robberies, and 608.13 assaults. All of these, I say, of course, are in per 100,000. What? Y'all know how white Nashville is? You don't know how white Nashville is. Nashville, Tennessee. Population. Oh, Nashville. We have moved up to Nashville at number 14. Number 14. Nashville, Tennessee. Population of 647,942. Homicide 16.3. Grapes 72.9, robberies 303.14, assaults 745.84. The 14th most violent city. And gun violence has become a major concern in Nashville. Gun violence. Anchorage, Alaska comes in at number 13. And I don't know why people are surprised that cities in Alaska are on this list. Cities in Alaska are on this list because Alaska has the it's cold and boring and crime. So Anchorage comes in at this level. It has a population of 296.18, 9.12 homicides per 100,000, 132 grapes per 100,000. So listen to the population. So you take that, it's about 396 grapes per year in Anchorage, Alaska alone. Robberies, 262.67. Assault, 799.4. Anchorage's high violent crime rate is linked to substance abuse, economic struggles, and isolation. You said, stop it. I mean, look at who's Tennessee's governor is. Yeah. Grapes in Alaska, it's too cold. That's diabolical. San Bernardino, California comes in at number 12. I'm sure we're closing in on Washington, D.C., right? We might be closing in, but stick with me. So the population is 217,259. Homicide rate is 15.65. Rapes are 72.72. Robberies are 403.67. And assaults, 799.05. I want you to process these numbers as we talk, because I want you all to compare them when we get to DC. I want you to compare these numbers to when I told you, this is a pop quiz. There will be tests after. My mother lives in Anchorage. It's awful. You know, gift from mother? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So that's Oakland, California. Population 429, 24,917. 16 homicide 16.24, grapes 94.15, robberies 629.77, assaults 559.17. Got it? Got it. Continuing. Um, Oakland has struggled with violent crime for years, particularly in certain neighborhoods. I wonder, this is what I want you to look. Carjackings and home invasions have also surged, with crime offering targeting high traffic areas. Carjacking, remember that. Remember that carjacking. Now let's get to the top 10. Indianapolis. Indianapolis. Are you for real? Indianapolis? Indiana? Hmm. One of the whitest places I've been. Oh, okay. Population 870,788. Homicide rate 17.91 per 100,000. Grapes 700 and grapes 76.71 per 100,000. Robberies 400 per 100,000. Assaults 839.13 per 100,000. What article are you referencing? What do you mean? What article am I referencing? I'm going through the 20 most violent cities in America. I mean, it's on the screen. I thought I'd just make these numbers up off the top of my head. I'm referencing the most 20 violent cities in America. So, I mean, side note, I can't take that pop quiz. I feel a cold coming. I can't see. I want to pull it up. Okay, Google 20 most. Violent cities in America.
Here's a summary from the website.
Okay, Google, I wasn't talking to you. Cancel. Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. You can't see. I can't see it. You can't see it? Is it too small? Yeah, y'all heard always listening to me. I used to live in Indiana, so I know how bad it is. All right, I'll start back at the top once I get through. Once I get to Washington, we're trying to see where Washington falls on this list since Donald Trump. Oh, let me spoiler alert: Donald Trump has flooded the streets of Washington tonight with federal troops. That's what this is all about. Y'all heard the thing because big balls tried to stop a gang of people. Listen, and that's some more I'm gonna tell you about that we found out since then. But he says he's doing this because the violence in DC has gotten ridiculous. We're coming back to that, but I just want to go over. I want to see what DC falls on this list. All right. So, um, Indianapolis. We just went over Indianapolis. This is number Albuquerque. This is where we did the last meal for those who have to be homeless. Um, Albuquerque, 516,374, 12.1, 12.47 per 100,000 homicides. Grapes are 84.26. Robberies are 521.93. Assaults are 50.48. And it's the ninth most violent city in America. The ninth most violent city. Another, Stockton, California. Population 309,566. Homicide 17.177. Um, grapes 49.75. Robberies 390.22. Assaults 956.82 per 100,000 people. Let that sink in. I want you just so we're at number. Can you imagine what Washington's going to be? Because we're already at number nine. It's number nine. I mean, number eight. That was number eight. We're already at eight. Can you to put federal troops in Washington D.C. on the ground? You know it's high, right? So Cleveland, Ohio, comes in at number seven. Cleveland, Ohio comes in at number seven with a population of 372,644. Homicides are 27.77. Grapes are 128.97. Robberies 699.88. Assaults 700.14. Right, so that's the most. That's the seventh most. That's the seventh most. That's good. Wow, DC gonna be. We it's a trend. I look at these places that are extremely cold, um, and it's like, oh, I'm supposed to have, I'm not supposed to have this much crime in the winter, right? It's cold. Why am I committing these crimes? And this is what got me about Wisconsin when I look at Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it's the assault rates. But 595,168,000 people, 19.83 per 100 for homicides. Rapes are 72.92. Robberies are 490.45. Assaults 1,000, 1,014.17. What's up, Raven? You see that, right? You see that. This is Wisconsin. Next time you have asked, I can't even say the name, it'll come on up and she don't answer. And now let's get close to me. Close to me at number five, Kansas City, Missouri. You say, who said, where y'all think Washington falling? You saying Washington is going to be number one, Amy? All right, we're at number five, Kansas City, Missouri. 484,948. 30.93 homicides per 100,000 people, 91.76 grapes per 100,000, robberies 382, 383.13 per 100,000. Assaults, 1218 per 100,000. 1,218 assaults per 100,000. All right. So Memphis, Tennessee, Shelby County. I used to live here. I used to live here too. This is Shelby County, 652,765. Homicides, 27.73. And cops calls a lot of them, but I digress. Grapes, 90.38. Robberies, 529.59. Assaults, 1,355 per 100,000. Welcome to Shelby County, the home of Elvis, Graceland, Whitehaven, Germantown, Popular. Oh man, getting to number three, Baltimore. Baltimore, population 613,217. Homicides 55.77. Grapes 62.29. Robberies 958.74. Assaults 950.23. So we're in the top two. Let's get to it. Number two, Washington. Nope. Number two isn't Washington. Number two is Detroit. Oh, okay. So I guess we know where Washington falls in. Population 670,792. Homicides 39.8. Grapes 103.91. Robberies 393.4. Assaults 1,519. All that's per 100,000. With a long history of economic struggles, the city has faced rising crime rates for years. Gang violence, poverty, and a lack of job opportunities have contributed to the problem. Gun violence is a major concern, with shootings almost happening daily. So let's get to Washington and look at stats. Wait a minute. Number one isn't Washington? Number one, not Washington? You mean we just put federal troops on the city, on the streets in Washington tonight because one little white kid was no, you mean to tell me Washington wasn't on the list? Let's get to it. St. Louis, population 310,284. Homicide 66.07. Grapes 93.14. Robbery 626.52. Assaults 1,296.55. St. Louis holds the unfortunate title of the most violent city in America. High poverty rates and ongoing crime activity. Crime remains a serious issue. The city holds one of the highest rates of murder in the country. Gun violence is a constant threat, with shootings happening in both residential and public spaces. In 2022, a tragic shooting incident left 2 dead and multiple injured. Law enforcement continues to crack down on crime, but the deep rooted issues driving violence make real change difficult. Let's look at this conclusion. The 20 most violent cities in America, violence remains a serious issue in America. High rates of murder, assault, each city on the list with a different challenge. Some cities see gang violence while others deal with random attacks, law enforcement, yada, 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 yada. What did you all not see? Oh, and you were talking about what this article is? Here it is. Go back to the top. 20 most violent cities in America. Do you have a black marker? I can add Washington, D.C. to the list. Uh, you found it? Yeah. And listen, and I picked this list because I wanted something that's reflective, because I'm not saying that there's not crime in Washington, D.C. Not saying that at all. But if you're going to make it that you're federalizing the National Guard on the streets tonight, I just want to go to the depth of how we're trying to distract from the Epstein files. Don't think this is anything other than a distraction from the Epstein files. What's up, goddess? And I say that because I tell you, let's talk about DC now, right? Let's talk about how DC crime is down.
This talk about increasing law enforcement in the district. We wanted to get a sense of just how much crime is being committed here in D.C. The News 4 I-Teams and Ted Oberg is digging into this for us for more context. Ted joins us now to sort of fill out the picture. Ted?
Yeah, Erica, this has been an interesting week when it comes to talking about crime in D.C. Remember, President Trump says on yesterday, in the Oval Office that crime in D.C. is ridiculous. Tuesday, on his Truth Social, he said crime in Washington, D.C. is totally out of control. But let's be clear. Crime in D.C. is down this year, according to D.C. police, and the stats go through this morning. All crime, property crime, violent crime, all of it's down. Violent crime is down 26% this year. Homicide down 12%. Assault with a dangerous weapon, things like non-fatal shootings and stabbings, down 20% as well. Carjacking in the district is down 37% this year. 2 summers ago, it was a...
Y'all remember, I told you, carjacking, that's what Big Balls was supposed to be trying to stop. Like, I don't know, and I know everybody hasn't led, lives that skated. Did I say skate? Oh, yeah, I know a lot of people haven't led lives that skated the edges of acceptable behavior. But understand this, right? 10 people are not involved in a carjacking. When I heard this story, I was like, let me get this right. 10 people were trying to carjack a car that at best only 5 of them can fit in. And know who's carjacking a car to go 5 deep in. And then to say that the police were watching this unfold and somehow they only managed to arrest 2 of the 10 people involved in the carjacking after they had beat Big Balls. I'm sorry, that's his name. He wants to be called that. After they had beat Big Balls to a bloody pulp. Yeah, but let's continue.
Huge issue. Remember June 2023, almost 5 carjackings a day in D.C. This June, about 1. Half the people arrested, however, in D.C. for carjacking, 51%, are juveniles this year.
Now, remember this. Remember what Gene Shapiro said about juveniles, coddling juveniles in D.C., how they're coddling them. And I don't even know what that means because there's a lot of cases in D.C. I've talked about where they have tried juveniles as adults. And I have a problem with some of them, but not all of them. But let's get into the numbers.
Here, which brings us to a point D.C.'s U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro highlighted today. And Paul played you a bit of that. I want to listen again.
Let's listen again.
We're seeing far too much crime being committed by young people, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, that I can't get my hands on. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the pictures, but, young people are coddled, and they don't need to be coddled anymore. They need to be held accountable.
According to D.C. statistics, more juveniles have been arrested in D.C. this year through the end of June. How many more? 1% more than the same time last year. That's 14 more arrests this year. And without changing D.C. laws, the U.S. Attorney's Office, Jeanine Pirro's office, can...
Listen to this. Listen to this. You don't have to change any laws. Listen to this.
Can prosecute juveniles. 16 and 17-year-olds, same time last year. More juveniles have been arrested in D.C. this year through the end of June. How many more? 1% more than the same time last year. That's 14 more arrests this year. And without changing D.C. laws, the U.S. Attorney's Office, Jeanine Pirro's office, can prosecute juveniles. 16 and 17-year-olds can be charged by her office simply if it decides to do so for serious violent crimes. Murder, rape, burglary, armed robbery, and other crimes can be moved to adult court committed allegedly by 16 and 17-year-olds after a hearing. 15-year-olds in D.C. can be prosecuted as adults as well if a judge says they can't be rehabilitated by the juvenile system. The law prohibits children in D.C. 14 and below from being charged as an adult. In a letter to the D.C. Council yesterday, Pirro asked Council to reconsider a few D.C. laws that are, in her words, detrimental to public safety here. The Second Chance Act, D.C.'s Second Look Act, and the Youth Rehabilitation Act. That third one is the only one that would directly impact current juvenile cases by possibly increasing sentences for young people. The others deal with changes well after sentences are imposed.
Right.
So when they're talking about changes, Ted, it's that age group then, those 14 and younger, would be the most impacted then?
You know, Paul tried to pin down the U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro on exactly the changes she wants. It was not quite clear exactly the changes she wants. It does seem that she is focused on this juvenile crime, which they say is climbing here in the district. The stats would, true, but not climbing by a lot.
All right, our Ted Oberg live for us this afternoon in the studio. Ted, thank you.
And there you have it. Like I say, that is the reality of the situation. That is what is actually happening. Those are the stats. I get so tired of people wanting to argue with me when we're talking stats. Like that's the stats. Whether you like it or not, that is the stat. So what has the Trump administration done tonight? Hmm, They have oh, that's another story on the top. That's- Trump orders federal law enforcement to patrol DC starting tonight. Starting tonight. Let me tell you. The links this man is going through to deflect from the Epstein files is crazy. This is crazy that this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. You see, across the board, all no, not LA 2.0, because LA was about um active protesting. It was that no, this doesn't even fit this doesn't rise to the level of saying this is active protest. This is not even active protest. This is in the face of one individual that Trump says that was trying to stop 10 people from carjacking somebody with no weapon. I understand white privilege. I do. I understand that Batman has it as a superpower, right? But you mean to tell me this 19-year-old, 19, 20, he's one of them. He was 19. I don't know if he's turned 20 yet. So this guy, this little scrawny white guy, saw 10 people attempting to carjack somebody. And he thought him and his utility belt were going to be out here stopping. That's what gets me off. And somehow they only managed, and the police, they say the police were right there. They watched this unfold, and they said to me to tell me they only managed to arrest two individuals that were carjacked is 10 people. And either you caught more or you couldn't catch any. Because how did they get away? Were they still beating him when they pulled up? Listen, listen. I say I don't have to do conspiracy theories. I say when reality just doesn't make sense, that's not Batman. That's bait. Listen, 10. They said it was 10 people attempting to carjack somebody. I just want to know why do you always spend more time on focusing on big balls? What about the person that was getting carjacked? How are they doing? The person that was getting carjacked. I have questions. I have questions. But like I said, that is a fact. Maybe, everybody always telling me how things have changed from when I was in the game or when I was younger, right? But and then I have to go prove them wrong. But 10 people, what were they carjacking? They had 10 people. You need to be carjacking a limo. Well, we know they didn't. We know they weren't carjacking a pesky U-Haul because a Penske U-Haul because that's what ICE agents were doing when they pulled up in the Penske U-Haul and to jump out of Operation Trojan Horse. I like the statement that Penske came out and said we didn't authorize this. We would have never rented them a U-Haul. No, they were transporting people in the back of it. That's not how this works. But yeah, Penske. Is it Penske? Am I pronouncing it right? Penske. They just made up numbers that how many people does it take to carjack? 10. Right. Like the siren just text Siren, I can't stand you. Siren texted me and said 10 people trying to jack Jones's invisible bus, imaginary bus. I can't stand you. I can't stand you. They were trying to they were trying to carjack Jones' invisible imaginary bus. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, well, actually, Siren said it, but I repeated it. So yeah, I so there is that. But that is what's happening in DC right now. But my question is, we just went over the 20 most violent cities in America. Why DC? Why DC? Why do you say crime is so out of hand and so ridiculous that you must federalize troops? They were carjacking. Hold on, what God is say? They were carjacking Sky Daddy and Jim Crow Jesus on a bus. I can't with y'all. I can't with y'all. Yeah. But why now? Why now? Listen, crime was higher in DC when he was president last time. Crime spiked in DC during COVID. He was president. Listen, and this is the thing about even Donald Trump's distractions, even though y'all call them distractions, or I would say he distract, they're still valid because he still intends to do what he does, right? And the idea is like we're watching. If I was watching and I was like, I wonder what the Hunger Games world was like prior to when they first started the transition, right? Yeah, we're gonna federalize the capital, we're gonna take it over, and we're gonna gentrify it. And you know what happens with gentrification. Instead of addressing the homelessness in DC by addressing the conditions that lead to homelessness, you're just going to kick them out. You want to, you have federal troops on the streets of DC. And if I was a police officer in DC, I'm going to tell you, um, I can't say that because then if I say that, people are going to be think I condone violence. You know, the officer who went into the officer went into work and his coworkers, he had had enough of them. Not saying that that's how you should handle it, but I guess you all should treat your coworkers better, make sure they don't want to come in and maybe not be racist and bigoted towards them, and you won't have to worry about that. But I digress. But if I was a police officer in DC and doing the job that we're doing and we've gotten crime down this much, and all of a sudden the president of the United States wants to send federal troops in like we're not doing our job, I would stop doing my job. I would stop doing my job. Allegedly, the word for today is allegedly. Every day is with you. It's always I got to do allegedly. I can't be remembering that big ass word all the time. He moves pieces, and it does. It doesn't. It's like it's. Is it a distraction? Yes, but this is what he wants to do also. It's like the distraction. Even though we want to call it a distraction, it's still what he wants to do. And he's just distracting you with things he really wants to do. Allegedly, I throw him into an active volcano. Allegedly, allegedly. We're working on the technology, so you also can have your own active volcano with you at all times that will fit multiple sizes. You can upgrade to from normal human size to the bigger human size, so you don't have to stuff them. Gentrification has hit DC hard. I barely recognize it anymore. And right, right. I want to know why the wind didn't do its job when. Listen, I'm convinced. Don't get me started. I can't. Y'all know my federal agent is watching. Um, so yeah, that's what's going on in DC, and I want you all to understand that the everything he says, you fact check it, and we know it's lies. But even, and I want to say this, even about what we call distractions, we can't afford to not pay attention to them. That's the thing about like when Steve Bannon told, and don't get me wrong, Steve Bannon is taking a page out of the art of war because you just hit with everything. And you, unlike some people that they try to distract you with things that don't matter, no, this administration is throwing everything at the wall. And I know people will say, well, we're fatigued or we just can't keep up with everything. I'll keep up with everything. You all just need to pay attention to what I tell you to pay attention to. If you are that fatigued, you have to realize that that's part of the process is to wear you down Because once you start wearing people down and they start to say, "Oh, well, I just have to pick and choose my battles," that means what are you not choosing? Because if all of it involves the violation of human rights, and you can't afford to, I understand everybody can't be in the fight because a lot of people don't have the energy, have the understanding. I get it, but you can't abdicate. You can't have. I will rest when I'm dead. That's my philosophy, Shay. When I'm beyond the veil, I'll rest. But our ancestors put up with much more on a regular basis for me to be listening to people talking about they're tired. Oh, I'm tired. I just can't keep up. Okay. I want you to realize that you have to pick cotton for 18 hours a day and still learn master well enough that he doesn't kill you tomorrow. What kind of pressure you think that was? Yeah. Just thought I'd put it out there. Just thought I'd put it out there. My ancestors could do it. I don't have a choice. That's why I be telling people I'm not cut out for everybody because people tell me I'm overwhelmed, and I'll be like, "You're overwhelmed doing what? What do y'all be overwhelmed? Is it a lot going on? Yes, yes. But if you're underwhelmed, then you're really saying that you're fine with some of the things that are happening to the point that you're not going to do anything about them. And since it's all connected, the work of the oppressor is all connected, people. Bannon won't be making it. Listen, I hate to break it to you. So I know. And speaking of overwhelmed, we're moving to. You all remember what I said about Benjamin Netanyahu and his plans for Gaza, no matter what everybody was saying? I remember. Anybody remember me talking about what Israel wanted with Gaza, and people were like, "No, they just want this, they just want that," and I said, "No, they want the land." Y'all remember when I said that? Anybody remember saying
You will go immediately into a meeting with your security cabinet. Will Israel take control of all of Gaza?
We intend to, in order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance. That is not Hamas and not anyone advocating the destruction of Israel. That's what we want to do. We want to liberate ourselves and liberate the people of Gaza from the awful terror of Hamas. And
do I need more evidence? Do all that talk about, oh, we just want to do this, do that, and we just want to get rid of Hamas. No. Did you hear what he just said? And he didn't say the quiet part. I told you all. I said, this is our way. There is no other reason you keep pushing the people of Palestine from one end of Gaza to the next end of Gaza. Unless when you talk about there's not famine going on, that this is orchestrated to kill people. This is genocide on a large scale level, including 2 million people. Because your objective, and that's why I tell people, why we are paying attention to Gaza, it's so many people not paying attention that what's going on the West Bank is similar to what's going on in Gaza without bombs. Without bombs. And you remember when we were talking about, they were talking about how aid shipments are being interrupted to Gaza by Hamas. Well, listen, we're gonna come back to that because I also want to. I'm gonna go into the BBC article from today, and I'm gonna show you because we talk about it. No proof Hamas routinely stole U.S. UN aid. Israel ministry officials said, and those ministers and those officials, um, Benjamin Netanyahu got onto them about saying that. But this is what they say. This is from Israel. This exclusive USA aid analysts found no evidence of massive Hamas theft of Gaza aid. That's That's it. That's not subjector. That is agencies, U.S. agencies in Israel. Now, I do want to go to um, this BBC article that people want to quote from today, and I want to break it down for you. We're going to break this down. Look at this. It says the secret system Hamas uses to pay government salaries. Now, understand, I want you to pick a struggle. Aid that the United States, but that Israel say it is responsible for getting into Hamas with the help of the United States, that they're distributing this aid free of charge, right? Y'all remember that. They say this is aid is free. These, and I also want you to remind that it used to be 600 trucks a day of supplies going into Gaza before October 7th. 600 trucks a day is what it took to maintain the largest open air prison in the world. Those 600 trucks a day were cut down to zero for 3 months of this year. The first for March, April, May of this year, that was cut down to zero. Prior to that, it was still a trickle off of 600. But this is, I want you to understand, this is my problem with the BBC article, is that they're not talking to people on the ground that they're willing to quote. They're saying, well, our unnamed sources. I told you all, I have friends in Doctors Without Borders. So this is why I get this, but I'm also going to be fair and I'm going to play the BBC article, and then we're going to go through it and dissect it, and I'm going to show you what's wrong with it. And for one of them, because we're going to talk about after nearly 2 years of war, Hamas military capabilities is severely weakened and its political leadership under intense pressure. Yet, throughout the war, Hamas has managed to continue a secret cash-based payment system of 30,000 civil servant salaries, totaling $7 million. Now, the BBC has spoken to 3 civil servants who have confirmed they have received nearly $300 each within the last week. Remember that. Remember that. We're going to come back to that because let's go to Gaza yesterday.
How did Gaza reach the edge of starvation? Aid has been a way of life there for more than 70 years. Before the latest war, 80% of the 2.2 million people who live there already relied on it. 650 lorries a day crossed into Gaza, a mixture of aid and commercial goods. Aid distributed at around 400 locations run by the UN. But since the war, triggered by Hamas's attacks on October the 7th, much of the Gaza Strip has been utterly destroyed. Israel's assault has been relentless. Gaza has descended into chaos, its population desperate for food.
I want you to look. Listen, I want you to look at this.
Much of the Gaza Strip has been utterly destroyed. Israel's
look at that. Look. Don't turn away. Look at this. Look. This is caused by Israel. What do you think a banking system is operating in? What do you think this banking system is operating? This is what gets me about this article. This article shows this. It shows this. This is miles. All the largest towns and cities in Gaza look like this, right? How IDF has all the high-tech drones, advanced weapons, and said still can't get to Hamas. Right. You can put beepers and phones and explosives in phones and send them and make sure you take out leadership in Lebanon. But right next door, you mean to tell me that there's a system operating, remember the tunnel system, but there's a system operating of secretly paying people. This is Gaza. But let's continue. Let's continue.
Assault has been relentless. Gaza has descended into chaos, its population desperate for food. Nighttime aid convoys have been overrun, civilians killed and injured. But then, in January, a ceasefire began. Israeli hostages were released, and the UN was able to flood Gaza with aid. But Hamas took control of some of the newly arrived goods. That's not just an Israeli allegation. Our own sources inside Gaza have confirmed it. Israel.
Now, this is what I wanted to know about these sources inside Gaza that confirmed that Hamas had taken some aid. Out of 650 lorries, what do you? I need to qualify what some aid is, because that some aid. So you're telling me that out of all these trucks, Hamas took control of some aid, but you're not telling me how much aid, right? Right? Yeah.
Israel, still determined to destroy Hamas, broke the ceasefire and cut off all aid once more. 2.5 months later, with extreme hunger taking hold, Israel introduced a new distribution system, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, an American organization designed, Israel said, to stop Hamas from stealing aid.
Now, listen to this. So this Hamas aid system, I mean this Gaza aid system set up with the United States and Israel. So now, so you mean to tell me that this is the two things you want me to believe have to be true at the same time? You set this aid up so that you say Hamas wouldn't be stealing it, so it's for the people, right? Right? Remember that. Remember that. And remember, I told you there are 2 million people depending on aid in Gaza. 2 million. Let's do some math. Somebody break the calculator. So let's say you get 3 meals a day, 3 meals a day for 2 million. That is approximately 6 million meals a day, right? How many meals a day would you need for 1 month? How many meals would if you're doing 600 meals, 6 million meals a day for 30 days, how many meals is that? Not yet. This is an international topic. We're gonna be on GCPR for a minute. Somebody, what you calculate at? Okay, hold that number, not billion. For for 30 days, it should be 180 meals. Now hold that number. So for just 1 month, 180 meals are what you need to have circulated to meet the bare minimum standard. Remember that.
DHF says it's provided close to 100 million meals at 4 aid points, mainly.
So in 2 months, did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Are we back? All right. So in 2 months, these aid points said they provided 100 million meals. And it would take, at best, you could get by with 180 million for 1 month, and you're celebrating the distribution of 100 meals over 2 months. It's really, it really worked out to be like 70 days, right? But they're celebrating this, and people are like, "Yeah, see, they're feeding meals," and it's like, now let's go, let's continue, because it gets worse.
In the south. But even getting to the aid is dangerous, with people having to trek along designated routes through militarized areas. The opening hours at the 4 sites are unpredictable and short, often leading to confusion and overcrowding. People have to compete with each other and with armed gangs to secure these precious supplies. Hundreds of people have been killed in the process, most of them by Israeli gunfire. So what now? Some aid is flowing, but convoys are regularly swamped by desperate crowds. The only answer, experts say, is to flood Gaza with aid. After 22 months of war, the shadow of starvation is creeping across the Gaza Strip. Without a ceasefire, its deadly progress will be hard to stop.
Anybody? 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 Anybody want to make it make sense? Listen, when I listened to this report and when I read the report and then I listened to this take on it. And I just want to say, I just want to go on record as saying that I have never heard And I am disappointed in the BBC because I usually give the BBC a lot. But this report, with its consistent and glaring inconsistency, it was consistently inconsistent. Like you're saying that, and let's talk about. So you're saying you're bringing aid in to give away freely, but yet and still you're saying that someone is paying for it. Is it me? So if you're giving aid out freely, but you're saying Hamas is paying people and their supporters are getting hundred, and this is what I'm saying. Listen, because go back to the article and then I read this part, right? Remember we saw the little boy on the aid truck I showed you, and he was scooping up flour into his shirt. This is what it is believed that there are among tens of thousands of employees who continue to receive a maximum of just over 20% of their pre-war salary every 10 weeks. Every 10 weeks. And how are we getting the salary? Because direct deposit is not a thing, right? We do understand that. You not getting direct deposit. How are we paying the salary, right? Let's listen to the most Mission Impossible shit I've heard since Mission Impossible. Severe food shortages with aid agencies blaming on Israeli restriction and rises of acute malnutrition continue in Gaza, where a kilogram of flour in recent weeks has cost as much as $80, an all-time high. Why is that? When you're giving, this aid is free. So who's charging? Who's charging? Who, people storming these limited aid facilities and taking whatever they can get. So you're saying that it's $80. So it's $80. What y'all doing with the money? What y'all doing with the $80? Y'all going out to the movies tomorrow? Y'all going movie? Anybody going to the movies in Gaza tomorrow? Y'all buying some new and y'all going shopping? That remind you how Gaza looks, right? Y'all going shopping? Oh, y'all taking a weekend flight to somewhere and coming back. Who's got money to buy and who's sell? Gracie, this is the most inconsistent. But let's go on. Like I say, let's get to the James Bond portion of that because that's not the gem. Hold on. Big Crumb Snatcher call. Yes, food. The Big Crumb Snatcher comes in with food. Thank you. Thank you. Food. Thank you. Uh yeah, this we got a little more. We got a little line. Food. But I'm not going I gotta finish this, right? So let's get to the James Bond portion of this. Because employees with no functioning bank system, listen to this, with no functioning bank system in Gaza, even receiving the salary is complicated and at times dangerous. Israeli regularly identifies and targets Hamas salary distributors seeking to disrupt the group's ability to govern. Hey, hey, did you get that? Did you get that? The banking system is. Listen, if he hasn't told y'all, I'm home. Oh, Jay home. I didn't see your text come up, Jay. Jay's home. Listen, let's get to the most convoluted part of it. Employees from police officers to tax officials often received an encrypted message on their own phones or their spouses instructing them to go to a specific location at a specific time to meet a friend for tea. Did I mention that Israel controls all internet service into Gaza and all telephone service? If this is the case, why aren't these people running around taking videos and sending them out of the conditions in Gaza? We got to depend on news agents. But this is it. Somehow these phones are working, and they have come up with the most convoluted way to ensure that this happens. Because you get now, let's get to what happens at this Mission Impossible drop zone. Listen, I'm telling you, I was reading this and I swear, Ian Fleming is somewhere laughing his ass off, right? Yeah, if you know, you know. So at the meeting point, The employee is approached by a man or occasionally a woman who discreetly hands them over a sealed envelope containing the money before vanishing without further interaction. Did you hear that? I'm sorry, it's too small for you, to read, but I promise you, I'm reading exactly what's on the page, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Listen, they have been watching too many. Listen, listen. This sounds like the plot of a whole movie I watched on espionage a couple of weeks ago, right? A strange person sends you a encrypted telephone message that's not encrypted, telling you to meet for tea. You mean to tell me the technology that Israel has to monitor the services, they can't, the BBC found this out and Israel did find this out. But I don't want to even let's forget all of that. The encryption. That's just wild on itself, right? But you all meeting for tea, and this strange person just hands you an envelope with some notes in it. Listen, listen, let's move further. An employee at the Hamas Ministry of Religious Affairs who doesn't want to give his name for safety reasons. I don't want to give my name for safety reasons, but somehow I think it was all right to meet with a BBC reporter and talk about this. I'm not going to give you my name, but I'm just some arbitrarily random guy who's telling this to a BBC reporter. An employee at the Hamas Religious Affairs who doesn't want to give his name for safety reasons describes the dangers involved in collecting your wages. Every time I pick up my salary, I say goodbye to my wife and children. I know that I may not return. On several occasions, Israeli strikes have hit the salary distribution points. I survived one that targeted a busy market in Gaza City. Ali Ale, whose name we have changed to protect his identity, is a school teacher employed by the Hamas run government and the sole provider for his family of six. I receive about 1,000 shekels or $300 in worn out banknotes. No trader would accept them. Only 200 sheiks were usable. The rest, I honestly don't know what to do with them. After 2.5 months of hunger, they pay us in tattered cash. Y'all talk about yourselves and tell me. Have you read the story? Have you read this story? Sounds like the trailer for Ocean's 14. Sink in. Marinate on it. 'Cause I am. Mm. It sounds so far fiction with all their sources. Right. Make it make sense. This is the best you come up with. This is the best you come up with. I just want to know who playing who in the Tubi movie. Listen, this is some Tubi come up with better plot lines. Tubi come up with better plot lines. This is it. This is the report they're saying proves that Hamas is still in control, and they're arranging all these secret drops and getting people paid to buy aid that's free. I love how they just make up characters and backstories with no proof. You don't have to offer any proof that you're who you say you are. You just say, "Hey," and then it goes on in the story talking about people living next door to other people and they're getting supplies and they can't get supplies and they feel some kind of way about it. Hmm. Hold on. Hold on. Now, this is the man who says he's getting this money, and this is his stealing. I am often forced to go to aid distribution points in the hope of getting some flour to feed my children. Sometimes I I succeed in bringing home a little, but most of the time I fail. You just said you had money, but you're going to aid points because your money isn't spending. Of course, it's not on. They can't put anything on the internet. It's true. So you're really going to eat in front of the fam and not. Hold on. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Stop playing with me. So how are any of them surviving? How any of them not surviving, right? Listen, it remains unclear how Hamas. Listen, it remains unclear. You said all that. It remains unclear how Hamas has managed to continue funding salary payments, given the structure of much of its administration and financial infrastructure. You just went through this whole story, and then you come back and say, "Well, it really remains unclear." Because Hamas has the Harry Potter. Remember in Harry Potter when they went to the bank under the and you have to go through this portal to get to it? That's Hamas. Hamas has a outworldly bank that they're supplying. One senior Hamas employee who served in a high position and is familiar with Hamas's financial operation told the BBC that the group has stockpiled approximately, wait for it, 700 million in cash and hundreds of millions of checks in underground tunnels prior to the group's deadly October 7th attack in South Israel, which sparked the devastation. They were allegedly overseen directly by Hamas's leader, Hassan Sinwar, and his brother Mohammed, both who have been since killed. Yeah, that's the name of it, Weber. I couldn't think of it. And paying them for what? Hey, what are you paying them for? What are you paying them for? They can't teach. Children are not going to school in Hamas and Gaza. Israel blowing up every place that people gather at. Like, this is the fiction that I'm looking at. This is the fiction that I'm looking at Zionists push right now. They just overskip the articles that their own government and that United States aid made about Hamas is not stealing substantial supplies of aid, but somehow they're using this one to say, see, told you, Hamas is still paying its people. To do what? Listen, um, right. I guess they got the Cash App going. They got the Cash App going. So it is what it is. They hide. They can't get food or water to be seen as risking their lives. Right. All right, GCPR. That's what I wanted to share with you all tonight. I really want you all to get that in so you all would know what's going on. Um, it's that time. Got some Jim Crow bus. The Jim Crow bus that was hijacked, got carjacked. So, all right, GCPR. I'll I'll see you tomorrow. Same Wakanda station, same Black Panther time. Gonna try to get it out the way quick. Tomorrow's Friday, huh? Yeah. Might got a horror movie out. All right, peace out. So you to the tube, peace out. I'll let you all later.